Well, hello, my little double chocolate fondant fancies. Here's I, Barry the Big Fat Puff and Pool here on another one of my journeys. Where are we going today? See if I give you a clue. Probably not. I'm wearing my Peaky Blinders top because I'm not going to Birmingham or Coventry or Leamington Spa. And I'm not virtue signaling or misappropriating because I'm from there. And I used to talk like that. I'm wearing blue suede shoes. Am I going to an Elvis convention? Nah. I am at my favourite train station, Branxton. So I'm going somewhere. There's a flower there. Any idea? Something very natural, very biological, very botanic, and very healthy. Going up to London for a hospital appointment, but I'm also going to pop in on the Natural History Museum. So, get there, I'll tell you more. Well, it's me again. I'm on the train, and we just left Branxton. For those of you interested in knowing how difficult it can be for disabled people at some of our smaller train stations, not complaining about the train station. I was due to get this train an hour ago, at 8:48, and because of my spinal problems, it took me a while to stand up off the bench I was sat on when the train pulled in. I managed to get to the edge of the platform, and the guard was leaning out of his window at the back of the train. He was watching me, and he was shaking his head, and I'm trying to reach up to help myself get into the train because there's no assistance available at that platform. And he shouted, "Hurry up." And as he said hurry up, he pressed the button to shut the doors, which shut on me, obviously. I couldn't get on the train, and drove off and waved at me as the train pulled out. I don't need this stress. I'm off to a hospital appointment in London anyway. I'm having a little day trip away. So we need to look at our train systems and the way we treat everybody. Everybody should be treated with respect. Oh, that's the only negative part so far. We're going to have a great day. Hopefully some good news at the hospital. And I shall see you when we get to London. Bye bye. Well, I hope you can hear me all right. Here I am. I've arrived in Waterloo in London. See, there's the big Victorian superstructure. Literally in the dead centre of the capital. I say literally because, in case you weren't aware, this station, or its predecessor, was originally built by the London Necropolis Rail Company to transfer deceased bodies from London out to Brookwood Cemetery. There, bit of information you probably didn't know. This is the world famous frontage and also some of the original stained glass. More to follow. Anybody want to go for a ride? This is the London Eye. There's the South Bank Centre. That's some grass and people. And I'm heading in the direction of Westminster Bridge and over to Parliament for that money shot of the Houses of Parliament and the tower that has Big Ben in it. See you soon. Even if I did want to go on it, there is no way I'm queuing this long. It's a well over 2 hour wait to even get on board. So on and upwards to Parliament. Bye. There you go. That's the money shot that everybody wants when they come to London. That and Buckingham Palace are fabulously Gothic confection is the Houses of Parliament, the Palace of Westminster, the Queen's official political residence, and behind, just to the left of the clock face, you can see the two white towers of Westminster Abbey. Onwards and upwards, allons-y, allons-y. Forget Horse Guards Parade, it's taken me half an hour to get across Westminster Bridge because of these huge crowds of people called tourists. Can't blame them, they're here on holiday, why shouldn't they enjoy themselves? But I'm completely lost in Westminster Tube Station, which I always get lost in. So I'm on my way to platform 1 to get the tube to South Ken so I don't miss my appointment at 1 o'clock. Only way I'm going to do it now. But still, it's a tube journey. Way! What fun, what joy, what happiness. See you soon. Well, here I am on platform 1 at last. And for those of you with a theatrical and cinematic bent, if I could, I would now stick Dumbledore and Mr. Potter over there somewhere. For those of you who recall the scene, I think it was Deathly Hallows Part 1 or 2. So, now waiting for the next train, which is 1 minute away, and that will take me straight to the fabled South Kensington tube station. And then it's a hop, skip and a jump to my appointment. Hopefully all goes well. Next thing you'll see is me at the Natural History Museum. Bye bye. Find the best musicians on the streets. Do you know, I could get really angry and frustrated, but I'm not going to. I've just come out of my consultant's office down Prince's Gate, but further down, to be told that the consultant couldn't meet me because he had forgotten it was Wimbledon's final day, so had left his secretary, assistant, whatever he was, a code for me to enter into a computer while I was there. And that code told me the reason I'm not unhappy. I don't have bowel cancer, I don't have bladder cancer, I am completely free. Not healthy, but I'm free of those at least. So I can't be angry. Although I am fed up at the cost of £58.50 for the train and the tube, when he could probably have phoned me up and told me, or sent me a letter. Here we are at the Natural History Museum on the corner of Museum Lane and Prince's Gate, where we're just going to go in and see all the wonderful, wonderful exhibits that, to my shame, at the age of 56, I have never visited. So this is my treat for all the concerns I've kept inside me for the last few months, waiting to find out if I'm healthy or not. We will see. We'll see on the inside, hopefully, if they let us film. I don't know. And here we have the most complete Stegosaurus skeleton in the world, or as I like to call it, Jacob Rees-Mogg, welcome home. I wanted definitely to see this, the Mary Anning display. Unfortunately, when you think of the achievements she made, not only because society was very anti-women having brains and thinking for themselves back in the Why do European boys have to scream so loudly? This is the plesiosaur that she famously discovered in one of her tours of Yorkshire. So, Kettleness near Whitby. I'm not sure it's the original. I think it's probably a cast of it because I imagine the original is too fragile. But Mary Anning, a wonderful, wonderful pioneer, as it says there, a pioneer of paleontology, and from my home county of Dorset. Bless her. I'm having to stand right back against the wall to take most of the photographs and things, but here we see, as you can see, ichthyosaurs, relatives obviously of the dolphin, which of course we all know now, but I don't think I'd want to go and swim with one of these little chaps. Absolutely enormous. And you can see how big they were compared to the life-size real people swarming around them. I mean, there's just so much. It blows your mind. It really does. And if you ever get a chance to visit, I cannot stress how worthwhile you'll find it. So here we see the rib cage of a stegosaur. So this is the sacral vertebrae that's down near its bum, moving up into its lumbar, which is where all my troubles are in my spine. But I haven't got a vertebrae that big, but I'm pretty sure some of mine actually look as bad as those. And then look at that rib there. That rib is wider than my shoulders, and I have a 56-inch chest. Stunning. And this little chap here, Toby would love that. That's his thigh bone. Wow. Just to give you an idea, just the scale of this building, for those of you who've never been to London, this is the main entrance, well, it's a model, but it's the main entrance on Cromwell Road. We came in on that side, on Prince's Gate. Just see how huge it is. Now, this area here, this in between the four columns, is where we're about to enter the internationally famous and probably most recognisable part of the Natural History Museum, the Hensey Hall. So look at this stunning neo-Gothic architecture. Everything had to look a bit like the Houses of Parliament or what they imagined Caesar's palace was back in the day. So there is the original main entrance there with its beautifully vaulted ceiling showing panels of flora and fauna. And then up here, I really don't know how I'm going to get it all in. I don't think I am. This is where Dippy the dinosaur, the Diplodocus that everybody knows of, used to be, right here in the centre, but it's been replaced by this giant whale-like creature. I'll have to put in what it is. I can't at the moment think. But if you think you could fit a good 2.5 football pitches, into the Hensey Hall floor space, just how massive that creature is and how terrifying, obviously that wasn't here, but how terrifying it must have been for the early visitors to come and see these massive, massive prehistoric remnants. Makes you realise just how small and insignificant we are. Really, really does. Just drink in this beautiful, beautiful architecture. I mean, even the tesserized floor, which isn't Victorian, it just blends so well, like a magic eye picture. So here we are on the other side, looking up again. It's a confection of different styles, of course. Those of you who are architecturally minded will know better than me. Up there is the bird exhibit. I don't think I've got time for that today. Because next I'm going into, I think, Creepy Crawlies, past the T-Rex restaurant. Now I'm not sure whether that's because it's on the menu or because you're on the menu for it, but it's called the T-Rex restaurant. But we're not going in there. No, we're going to look at some spiders because I know just how much you like to see them. Just to prove that campness is not a new invention of the LGBTQ community. Here you see probably the campest trios of dromaeosauruses, or dromaeosauri, or the running lizards, or possibly a beat jazz combo. Going to sing the songs of Usher and Dizzy Rascal later on for us. I won't be here. Looks like they've been hanging around for some time, but look how limp those wrists are. Jeez. It's no wonder they're called dromaeosaurus's. I thank you, here all week. And those are the originals, they're not resin casts, they're original dinosaur skeletons. And yes, I said it that way for the benefit of people who think that's how you say it. Everybody else just calls it a pile of bones. Much more my type of tiny little deedy-dinies. Look, the Jack Russells of the dinosaur world. Feathered and fur. These are Deinonychus. Deinonychi. Which means, oh dear, terrible claw. And actually the claws are pretty spectacular. This is a relative of the Velociraptor. But it was too small to tackle prey, large prey, and it had to hunt in packs. As you see, it has feathers but fur underneath, very unique. But this eventually would have become or evolved into some form of bird. 120 to 110 million years ago, 3 meters long, and from the USA. That is the only bit of educational information you can have that I can be bothered to stand for. But yeah, go, I've been buffeted again. People, and again, people don't care. Bye bye guys, run for Senate. That's my last bit in here. The aptly named, considering it's looking for its close-up Mr. DeMille, Camarasaurus. See if I can get it in one shot. No, still can't. That's the Camarasaurus, and now I have to leave this, because that's the man who keeps banging into me. If you don't like things that slither and crawl, you may want to skip past this section. Trigger warning. It's Hagrid's friend before they buried him. Of course, there's also nice stuff as well. All the insects and creepy crawlers are in here. Here you see the arthropod buffet. Fancy anything? A bit of cabbage, the fruits, a sea urchin, a fish, coconut, scorpions. Yeah. The great thing about, of course, our favourite insects, the bees, eating all the pollen. But they're also quite fond of blood, as I found out to myself last week by being bitten by a tick. I'll see if I can find an ordinary common tick and show you what gave me Lyme's disease. I've come inside just for a second. I'm inside a life-size replica of an African termite mound. Now, if you think how big or how small termites are, and I'm 6'5", now let's come out and see just how big these mounds can get to. Right. That's sign there is about at my chest height, and it keeps going, and it keeps going, and it keeps going, and it keeps going. It's up to well over 5 meters above ground and another 2 meters below ground. Absolutely amazing. I can assure you this isn't a real one. If it was, you wouldn't see me for dust. Number 1 Crawley House. Anybody tell me who lived there? Nobody particularly special, but it's basically representative of all of us. So these are the insects that you will get in your everyday home. There's a little smudge. Those of you who've got pussies might want to look away now. With the idea of a cat flea, the eggs and the larvae that create the flea. That's why I have dogs, because dogs have different types of fleas. But then, in your cupboards, have you thought about flower beetles and flower mites, mealworm beetles, flower moths? All of these, if you ingest them, are not going to be very pleasant for you. And then in an imported soup mix, weevils and pea beetles. Now I can tell you about pea beetles personally because I've been growing peas in my garden, and with the weird weather we've had this summer, they've been attacked by the pea beetles, which are the top ones, which are not very nice. Nice household spider on that plate. Then the spongiform bugs like wood lice and things like that. They will be in your houses as we speak. Common flies. They land on your food. Think about what they're depositing. Every time a fly lands, they empty their stomach lining onto the food to soften it up, and then they suck it all back in again, leaving all their sick and vomit on your food. Charming, eh? But the great thing is, we have wonderful digestive systems that protect us from the majority of that. Woodworm, those of you who are antiques orientated, and probably worst of all, who's in the pedal bit. Mostly flies. Let's look in the fridge. All these things can get in. It's not just as you might think in the developing world. These will come in the Western world as well. And it doesn't matter how clean you keep your house, these will find their way in. Now some people, cheese mite there on the Attenberger with cheese mites. Altenberger, sorry, Attenberger. Dear, poor old Sir David. These cheese mites, some people eat the cheese with them in them. It does them no harm at all. But for other people, it can cause listeria and a whole host of horrible diseases. So, not only make sure your house is clean, but keep your places tidy. Here we are. I promised to show you what bit me and gave me Lyme's disease last week. There it is. Obviously considerably smaller in real life. If you look at the screen there, it's showing a tip and how it actually injects its venom to its proboscis and the damage it can do. If you get one, you must make sure you get it fully out. Otherwise you end up like me on a very, very strong course of antibiotics, which is making me feel hot and sweaty and miserable. But they don't so much often bite us, but they will bite our pets, especially dogs. So if you take your dogs out into the country, try and make sure you check them over every time to ensure that there isn't a tick burying itself into their skin. And if it is, invest in a tick removal tool and get them out. Toby thinks his dew claw is an issue. Jeepers, I wouldn't want to have to snip that one. This wonderful edifice. I had to come out, I just can't take being buffeted anymore. To overlook the new beautiful nature gardens that they're building. They're going to be so stunning. A wonderful micro ecosystem. I finish with this phrase: the future of the natural world on which we all depend is in our hands. And guess who said that? Big Dave Attenborough. So I just couldn't take the crush anymore, I'm afraid. Truly spectacular place, and I'm so glad I've come. There's this rising up behind me, and it's just still the V&A is over there, Victoria and Albert. But I'm now going to head back to the Tube and go and get some lunch in Soho. I hope you've enjoyed this little tour. There is so much more to see here than I can ever do justice to. You can see bits of it online. It is free, as I say. I paid a bit extra, so I got the souvenir guidebook, and I'll be filling in part of this film with information on there. But Natural History Museum, well worth it. As always, Chinatown is very, 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 very busy. I'm in Wardour Street, just about to go onto the Dragon Gate, heading to Leicester Square for a slow walk, then down to through Whitehall, past Horse Guards, and back to Waterloo, then home. I am absolutely exhausted and I've only been here 4 hours, but that's the joy of my back. It will go so far and then it gives up. But I've had a lovely time. And now some random woman's just come up and offered me a rose. It's very nice of her. And I took it off her, and then she said she wanted 20 quid for it, so I gave it her back. Doesn't say friendly then. Right, so just came up to the Swiss signs at Leicester Square. Grab some food, and then it's home time. As I say, 4 hours is enough. But it's good news, so I'm happy. And showing you a bit of London. If you haven't seen it in real life, now you have. And thank you for joining me. See you on the next one. Have lots of donuts and sweet things and celebrate my good health. Ciao bello. So here's a few gratuitous images on the way back. The National Gallery, St Martin's in the Fields, 2 men. Trafalgar Square is closed off for an LSO concert tonight, but looking over it will be Admiral Lord Horatio Nelson, quite famous for the fact that with one eye and only one arm he has stood up there for over, let me think, 200 years now, and not fallen off. Well done, Admiral Lord Nelson. There's the Presse Manger. This is the Canadian Embassy. Oh, Canada, etc., etc. Slava Ukraini. That's a man on a bike. That's a boy on a bike. And I just realised I'm walking in the road, which is very stupid. So heading down now towards Admiralty Arch, which is a sort of extra political gateway they put to the Mall, which of course leads up to that nice little cottage that the King and Queen officially call home, although they live at Clarence House. I was horrified to read recently that the government has leased Admiralty Arch in all its beauty to a chain of hotels, and it's becoming a hotel, and the government is going to have to lease back the rights to take traffic through it for state occasions, which I think is pretty rich. There's old Nelly again. He really is quite clever to stand up there. I mean, he's got some rope, as you can see, but he could fall at any time. This could be very worrying. People are crossing, so I'm going to do the same. As you can see, it's crossing for men, for women, and for transsexuals. It's bizarre. I don't know quite why they need that on a crossing, but they have. There is my noble and ancient relative, Charles Stuart, first of his name, the king, the only king to be executed. And as you can see, the pigeon on the top of his head, if you can see it, is clearly not very impressed with his backstory. So this was Admiralty Arch, and forgetting the porter cabins, the big white covered bit is Admiralty Arch, and one day again it will be open and the archways will be accessible. I'm sure it's going to be a lovely hotel. It's in probably the best spot in London, so it's probably going to be very expensive as well. But if we look through the gap, through the trees, up the Mall, there is Buckingham Palace, and the King clearly is in residence because the Royal Standard is flying. Perhaps he's got some official engagement there, who knows. And now I'm coming onto Whitehall and heading down past Horse Guards and Downing Street. More to follow. Coming up to the Trafalgar Theatre at the top of Whitehall, and as you can see, they're showing the National Theatre's production of People, Places and Things. I think that really sums up what London is. There's lots of things to do, lots of places to visit, and there's a hell of a lot of people. This is the reason I don't come up to London very often. It is a nightmare for the ambulant disabled like myself. Heaven alone knows what it is like for people in wheelchairs and whatever. It's getting better. I know the facilities in most places are excellent, but it has to be said that the general public still do not see disability as they should. But there we go. So having just gone past the entrance to the Mall and the royal area, we're now in the political area. This is the political heart of the United Kingdom. The Department of State in that building. That's the Raffles Hotel, historically famous. And the building next door to it, just in the distance, is the banqueting house. And it's the banqueting house from where Charles I was brought out onto a scaffolding into this street, rather close to that statue of, I can't remember who's on that horse. I know this is Earl Haig, but I can't remember who the next one is. And was swiftly relieved of his body from his head, or vice versa, by the parliamentarian forces who had won the English Civil War, and for whom his life was over. And we entered a republic for a very, very short time. You think of what that man did. He almost destroyed what was already by then a 600-year unbroken line of kings. Different families, different backgrounds certainly, but nevertheless they were kings and monarchs. And of course our system has changed. We now have the mother of all parliaments, and it's a right you know what. But we have a new government and a fantastic new Prime Minister, and hopefully things are going to improve for the lives of the UK. Try not to be political. I can't help it, it's in my nature. And here we come to Horse Guards Parade, or the entrance of the Horse Guards Mews and Stables. And these are the King's mounted bodyguards. They are the personal protection troop for the sovereign. And they are guarding here, and as you see, it's always busy here. Very, very popular sight for tourists. And these poor men and women have to sit on these horses for hours on end with everybody and their mate coming and taking photographs and touching the horses, grabbing the reins, and despite all the warnings, do not hold the reins, the horses will bite, they will kick. These are part of our armed forces. Yes, they may have 4 legs, but they're nevertheless a very, very central part, not just for ceremonial. These are fully functioning, serving soldiers, and they do a fantastic job. And we say thank you to each and every one of them, and all their predecessors and all our veterans, for all the work they do. There's always armed police around here because we're so close to the centre of government. There's a police helicopter overhead for some reason. Let's see. Here's a horse who's not happy. Somebody has obviously done something to upset him. Tried to see the number on his bridle, but I can't see it, so I can't tell you which horse it is. I know it's not Ormond, he's not big enough for Ormond. But these horses are just as much a central part of our armed forces as every other part. God bless them all. And for those of you who haven't seen it, this is Downing Street with its really heavy gates and obviously its high security presence. And you can see the flags outside in the distance. That is number 10, the one with the lit arch. That's the office of the Prime Minister. Although Sir Keir and his family, as has been the case since Tony Blair, don't live at number 10 because the flat's too small. They live at number 11, the white fronted one, which is the office of the Chancellor of the Exchequer, because the flat is bigger. So the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, lives in number 10's flat, and the Prime Minister and his family, because he's got kids, live at number 11. And then the red brick one, number 12, is the Chief Whip's office, where all the evil people live, who put a bit of stick about, like the chap in House of Cards, and scare the MPs. Luckily now we've got a new Prime Minister, we don't need as many of them, thank God. Long live Sir Keir. So a lot of people, when they visit this country, particularly on state visits, are quite often surprised at just how small number 10 looks. Obviously inside it's massive, but it's nowhere near as big and grand as this building. And this building is the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. Used to be the Empire Office. This is where we ran the Empire. This is where we did all the bad stuff that the British are now apologising for. And as you can see on the just above the, I think these are Doric plinths, are they? We've got all the things that we consider ourselves worthy and famous for. Providing education to the poor, providing civilization for Australia, for America, for that big country known as Africa. I'm joking, unless you're Donald Trump. Another big country called Asia. Now in those days when this was built, we ruled a quarter of the world. And we did it through violence, and we did it through intimidation, and we did it through just the things that we moan about today. But we have learnt. Sadly, however, there are still dictatorships and oligarchs in the world, and I'm not thinking of anybody particularly, Nosvedanya, who still think it's okay to empire build at the feet of the suffering of the locals, and it's not fair. But this still stands testament, and it's a beautiful building. It's absolutely stunning inside. If you've never seen inside, there are YouTube videos you can watch. Just type in UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office and you can have a look round at the grandeur of it. It was meant to intimidate people. Nowadays, for the public, it's most famous for this door and the balcony above it. Now this door is the door on through which on Armistice Day, or the Sunday nearest to it, which is the end of the First World War, so our national commemoration of our war dead of the First, Second War and everything since, female members of the royal family and the younger ones stand up on the balcony, and the king, the prime minister, the former prime ministers, the governor generals, etc., all troop out of here and form an honour square around this, the cenotaph, our national symbol of memorial. And it's somewhere I never just walk past. I can't. Without the sacrifices that these people made, we would never have the freedoms that we have today. We think we have it bad now, but you imagine if certain other powers had won in the First World War or the Second World War, or even in Korea, or those associated with Aden and the other conflicts, we would be in a pretty parlous state. So on the Lutyens designed very simple, as the king instructed it should be, a simple monolithic structure to show thanks and gratitude. It just says on one side, our grateful dead, and you can see MCM XXX1X, which is 1936, when it was secondly commemorated. On it we have the three flags that represent our forces. The Union flag in the middle, not the Union Jack, it's not on a ship, it's the Union flag, probably one of the most recognisable national flags in the world, representing the army. To the right of it, a Union Jack ensign of the Royal Navy in red, and on the left, with its very famous roundels, the blue flag of the RAF, the Royal Air Force, my lot. And we will never forget them. We will never forget them. And always there are some wreaths on here, not just the poppies on Remembrance Sunday. So, and there we are in the shadow of St Stephen's Tower and the Houses of Parliament in the distance. There's Parliament Square. And these, just have a look, these particular ones are from Belgium. I don't quite know what it's particularly celebrating, because most of the cards are in Walloon or German and I can't translate them, but these are obviously the symbols of Belgium, so something significant regarding contribution of Belgium in conflicts. Richmond House, the rather more austere building that I think used to be, I don't think it still is, the Department of Health. It might be, but if it is, I'm not certain of it. Something's going on down here, I don't know what. But we're heading briefly into Parliament Square. That little church ahead of you, with the bigger one behind it, the bigger one is Westminster Abbey, where the King was crowned and where so many of our former kings and high people are buried or commemorated, our national church. And the little church, St Margaret's, is the church of the local parish, and it's also known as the MP's church, and it's a very beautiful building inside, but because it takes so much to fill Westminster Abbey, it was felt that it was more appropriate to have a smaller parish church for local people. Obviously there aren't that many people who live in this area, with the exception of the Prime Minister, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and probably a few civil servants, but nevertheless it was helpful to have. Don't know what this chap's done, but he's in cuffs. And police, as usual, the Metropolitan Police, have done a fantastic job. That building there that's covered up is Old Scotland Yard, the one that you would know from the days of Sherlock Holmes films, in the days of black and white, with my cousin Basil Rathbone. And there, the imposing building behind St Margaret's, the world-renowned Westminster Abbey. Completed, I believe, I may be wrong. If I am, I will put it in a flash over on here, by Henry the First or Henry the Second. It's been adapted to over the years. Stunning building, worth a visit on its own if you come up to London. And there in the distance, just to the right of the traffic lights, you might be able to see the statue of our great old statesman, our war leader for the Second World War, the great hero of not only the British but the Americans and many people around the world, Sir Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill. You hear Big Ben striking 4 o'clock. It's spot on as always. Big Ben is a bell, it's not the tower. A lot of people think the tower is Big Ben. No, the tower is the Elizabeth Tower, in honour of Her Majesty, our late Queen. Renamed after it was regilded and restored. There is a massive plan of a renovation taking place at the Palace of Westminster at the moment because it's basically falling apart. Lots of documentaries again you can see on YouTube and other sites of that. This building in the front of it is the oldest part, predates Henry VIII, Westminster Hall, and where that large arch window is, that is where Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II lay in state in her coffin before her funeral. And there was bright gilding, St George's flags surmounting it, the clock face of the Elizabeth Tower holding Big Ben amongst its panoply of ruddy, huge and beautifully sounding cast iron bells. And with that, my trip to London is complete. Once I cross the bridge, I leave Westminster and I'll be back at Waterloo, getting the train and going and having a cuddle with my Toby. Thanks for watching.